You're listening to FitPro Sessions with Parallel Coaching, episode number 6. Hi, I'm Neale Bergman, and in today's podcast, I'm talking to Darren Stock, a body transformation coach, and we're talking about how to go all in 168 hours with your coach to get the results. So stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Neale Bergman.
And I'm Hayley Bergman. Over the last 10 years, we've helped thousands of fitness professionals to get qualified, learn with simplicity, and coach clients with confidence.
We're the first to say that learning and being a fit pro doesn't have to be hard work, and that with the right structure, support, and resources, you can become a confident and knowledgeable fitness professional that is dedicated to more.
So how do you learn, qualify, and kickstart as a fit pro? This is the FitPro Sessions Podcast with Parallel Coaching.
A massive warm welcome to you, Mr. Darren Stock, or should I say Grandpa Porsche. Now, for everyone listening, I've known Darren for a number of years now, since 2010. And
yes.
I've got to know Darren not only in the classroom as a learner, but as a very good friend and mate over the years. And we talk and chat on a regular basis. And it's an absolute pleasure to have Darren on the podcast today. We're talking all about his journey as a fitness professional and more so deep diving into body transformation and bodybuilding. So a massive warm welcome over to you, Darren. Tell us more about who Darren Stock is, or Grandpa Porsche.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the invite. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to help you with this. Who am I? I am a 46-year-old grandpa. No, actually, I'm not a grandpa. But been in the fitness industry for a number of years. Been training for 30 years, so kind of 30 years gym-based experience. Providing kind of fat loss, nutrition, and fitness to each and every one of you.
So you say you've been training for 30 years. You don't look a day older than 30. So
Very
good. So what I love about that, and it's what I want to dial into most, is the experience you've got in your own training and how you've brought that into the realm of your clients as well.
Yes.
You've been training for 30 odd years. You're in your mid 40s. What got you into training in the first place? How old were you? What got you there?
It's an interesting one, because if we go right back to kind of day one, before I started lifting weights at 15, 16 at school. But if we go back before that, I mean, I was judo at 6 or 7. I swam for Suffolk. I swam for the Suffolk Army Cadets between the age of 8 and 13. I swam for Beccles, Kingfishers. I swam for the lowest of swimming club. I swam for everyone. I've got medals for everything, and I have every single badge there is associated with swimming.
So you got past your 5 meter, then, I take it.
Yeah, I did the 5 meters, and then I managed to do the 6, 7, 8. And but yeah, so I don't know what they are, 200 meters, 500 meters. I've got them all. I've got every single badge. I had a tracksuit that make Jimmy Savile look like he'd lost out. But so that was really, I guess, where my love of fitness, in a sense, came from. Then I was boxing at 13, 14, and I was in the Army Cadets for 5 years. So I was into the hill climbing and orienteering and rock climbing and all that kind of stuff that went with that. Then I went back to boxing at 17, 18, after I joined a gym at 15, as I say, which started with school initially. And then my sort of between 16 and 22 is when my love of bodybuilding really took off, and that desire to want to change the way I looked. And I found it fascinating that you could actually you could actually change the shape of your body with a lot of hard work. And that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to change my shape.
So if we go back then to kind of the 15 to 20-year-old Darren Stock, from a body shape perspective, what was it that fascinated you most about changing your body specifically? You know, we've not actually had any of this discussion before, so it's super fascinating for me. So what was it a case of, I don't know, were you super skinny? Were you overweight? What was it about that transformation that fascinated you?
No, I mean, for me, honestly, obviously, we look around the gyms and the people that I work with today, and obviously yourself, people that you work with, we all know that most people in the gym have some kind of either physical or psychological issue, which is why they're there. I was never bullied at school, but I was bullied by my parents, by my mum specifically. So there wasn't I can't say it was a real desire to be bigger, but it was a desire to not want to be bullied, I guess, where you didn't feel like you were inferior. So, there, I have to think that there was a little bit of that in there somewhere where...
so did the gym, did that allow you then to, would you say, escape the thoughts and feelings you had at that time? And that just gave you a sense of certainty. You knew that you could turn up and feel a certain way. You knew that by changing your body shape for the better from what you thought, that it made you feel, I suppose, powerful. Is that, am I on the right track there? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, it was never a need to be the biggest person in the room. And as you can see, I'm not the biggest person in the room. I wanted quality. I wanted definition. I'm more into the lines and the cuts than total mass. So, it was never about being the biggest person. So therefore, I would automatically scare everyone else. But it was about being able to be in control of myself. And there was a lot of other issues going on in there as well, kind of, psychological issues that meant that I had to have control over who I was as an individual. And going to the gym obviously allowed me to have total control of my mindset in what I was doing inside the gym and outside the gym. And so it was my solstice at one point. As you say, I could go to the gym and it didn't matter what kind of day I was having. And the worst day, the better, because I went to the gym and I just had a row with the iron, and then I would leave and it'd lose every time. And that just allowed me to work out that, I could do a lot more things once I had that mental perspective over my body and my, so that control over what I was doing and wanted to achieve. And I think that was probably the main thing for me, in that age period.
So that kind of your own kind of self-liberation, I suppose, has allowed you to master the 6 inches between your ears. Along that journey, you've learned an incredible amount of knowledge to apply to your body physically. And now you find yourself working with clients. Are you able to take all of your past learnings and experiences yourself, psychologically, emotionally, and physically, and apply that to today's clients?
Yes, absolutely. Because I think half of them, and as I say, with everybody in the gym, I don't know if they started last week or they've been going in there 25 years. Everybody is in there for a reason. And, it definitely helps having some form of knowledge and understanding of my own personal reasons to what took me there. But I think the generalization of the understanding of what takes other people there is, as what has helped me, since then, obviously with my own clients, because I realized that it isn't just, like I say, some people are bullied, some people want to physically feel bigger than the next person, so they're not bullied. Some people just want to, look better aesthetically as I did. I wanted to change my shape and knew that I could change the size of my arms or the width of my lats or, the size of my quads or whatever. So I went on a mission to do that. And I did, that's exactly what I achieved. But it's definitely helped.
And something I've seen over the last, since I've known you for the last, almost 10 years now, is I've seen your body shape change. You've got bigger, you've got wider, you've got thicker, you've cut muscle, you've got more definition, you've regressed and changed shape again and back and forth, which has just been phenomenal. And I love the fact you on all of your social media or the profiles I see, you call yourself a body transformation coach. Why do you call yourself a body transformation coach and not a personal trainer? Because you're a PT by trade.
Yes.
But what is it about body transformation? I suppose that's coming back from your whole life experience in the gym, I suppose, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yes, you go and do a qualification to become a level 2, level 3 PT of some description. fitness instructor, call it what you like. And you know, they're part and parcel of the qualifications that you need, obviously, to go out and work. So they're almost something that I had to do, I guess. But in terms of a body transformation coach, the difference between the two, for me personally, and how it was kind of sold to me, was a personal trainer. Yes, you pay them £20 an hour, £30 an hour, whatever it is, whether you're paying a club, £45 an hour, whatever. And they give you an hour of their time, and you know, say wave goodbye, and you come in next week. And there wasn't always this desire to make you want to change. You know, it's, well, you know, you will be getting fit, you will be doing this. I understood that the nutrition side of it was going to be the forefront of everybody's real transformation. So I went into learning about the nutrition side of it so that I could start to transform people easier, quicker, better, improve their health and everything else all at the same time. And the results then that you get as a body transformation coach is completely different. So, you know, when people ask me what I do and I say I'm a body transformation coach, and they look at you gone out and say, don't really know what that means. And I just always explain it as being, it's kind of the next step up from a personal trainer. It's a very expensive personal trainer. I do everything that they do, and then I do a little bit more. And that's kind of what gives me that title, you know. As you know, I mean, I did a master training diploma, but that doesn't really set you apart from a personal trainer. A level 3 is a level 3 to a degree. Yes, you have those extra add-ons, the CPDs that you've done to become a master trainer, which makes you different. But I want to just fully stand out, you know, and market myself differently. And as a body transformation coach, I market myself in the sense of, you know, you pay for a job and you get that job done, and it costs X, Y, Z at the end. You know, if it's £2,000 for a 12-week transformation, for argument's sake, that's what it is. And you will lose 2 stone, and you will look completely differently in those 12 weeks.
Whatever it takes inside that time frame.
Yeah.
And you know what I couldn't agree more. What I find super fascinating is you're based in Norwich, aren't you? Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. So you're not in an overly affluent area in the grand scheme of things. And yet it's how you've packaged yourself up as a body transformation coach and separated yourself from the masses has allowed you to be consistently very busy, transforming people's bodies, irrespective of price, irrespective of time, irrespective of their pressures or their barriers, their hurdles, which has just been fascinating to see you develop as a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, and it is completely different. You are marketing yourself differently. I am busy enough, more than happy with the workload that I have. I turn down work. I only work with certain people. I have that ability to be able to do that, because I'm not trying to do what some of the other youngsters are doing, where they're trying to do 100 hours a week to keep their gym happy, and they've got to work 20 hours for free or whatever. I get paid for every hour I do, and I do as many hours as I need to get the job done.
And I think that's what I love about your approach as a transformation coach, getting a client from A to B in a certain time frame, because there's a very specific goal, is you're with them and guiding them for all 168 hours of a week. You're not there on a Monday evening and a Friday evening and not overly interested or focused on the other 166 hours. You're more concerned with what they do outside of your sessions versus necessarily what they do inside your sessions.
Yeah, absolutely. I can totally control everything they do inside the session. But as we know, you spend an hour with me, there's 167 hours of the week, say that you're on your own. When we do a transformation, I'm seeing clients 4 or 5 times a week. So we're having 4 hours of PT a week. Then they've got the cardio on top of that. Obviously, they've got their nutrition plans over the top of that. And, I live in their back pockets. I take them shopping, we buy food, they put it in the basket, I take it out, and that's how it is. And any problems that people get, I'm there 24/7. That's what you're paying for.
So if you were to come shopping with me then, what type of food, what type of foods would you be taking out?
You'd be putting in the full fat Coke for a start, and I'd be taking it straight out and swapping it for Diet Coke.
Fantastic. So it's
because I know you have a small penchant for a glass of Coca-Cola every now and again.
Now and then, my love for Coca-Cola has declined over the years, but it I'm not going to lie, it would be in there. But that's what I love about that. It's something I've done with my clients historically as well. Is one person springs to mind. It's an older lady that I used to work with down here in Plymouth, and her struggles with food were very deep, emotionally, psychologically, very deep for her, and we tackled that. But ultimately, what came to light was she didn't really know how to. She was 65 years old. She didn't know what to put in her shopping basket. She didn't know why it was going in her shopping basket. She just knew that she felt a certain way when she ate whatever was in there. And actually, the education we had going to the local Sainsbury's, what should go in, how to use those ingredients, how to make up a series of meals for the week, was just transformational for her.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the biggest problem that we have today in the outside world is this massive confusion between what is on the internet and what somebody else might say. And that could be a slimming group, and it could be your best friend. Everyone's got an opinion on what we should or shouldn't be eating. I think the major misconception and the confusion is around, by what we're told on the news. Don't eat meat this week, don't eat eggs the next week. Fruit's healthy, and then you get Mary with her bowl of fruit, and then poor old Mary can't lose any weight because she's eating 15 kilos of fruit every morning, but fruit is healthy. She's right. She's absolutely right, because she's been told that, and she's right. You can't deny it, but 15 kilos of fruit in a bowl in the morning is not healthy for anyone. But this is where we're at, unfortunately. And I think, we as FitPros have a job to try and re-educate people properly. I certainly do my best, and I hate it when people stand there and talk a load of rubbish, because they shouldn't actually really be talking about it at all, but they do. They try to help, but then end up making the situation worse by sprouting a load of rubbish.
Or adding a lot more confusion to an already confusing topic.
Therefore adding more confusion. Absolutely. And it's, yes, you need a couple of bits of fruit. Yes, you need this. Yes, you need that. Do you need an excess of anything? No. As we both know, it's about balance. But yeah.
Cool. I want to kind of segue back with this motion of body transformation coach and go back to the early stages of your journey again. And one thing that we've spoken many times about is you actually getting on stage as a having radically changed your body shape, body aesthetics, body appearance. When was you've gone into the gym at 15, you've gone through the Army cadets and been active, you've done like all the orienteering, you've gone into boxing, you've done all your swimming. Clearly your body from a very young age has been exposed to a lot of frequency of training, different levels of intensity, different modalities of training, different time bouts of training, under that classic kind of fit principle. But when was your first show, and what was that like? Tell us more about that.
Okay, so the first show I ever did was 9 years ago now. I think it was, maybe it might have been, it was 2010, 2011. It was the Great Yarmouth. It's just a local show. Very few people in it. No one was in shape, including me. That was my first insight into the scary world. Having, been a part-time bodybuilder purely for fun and aesthetics and the enjoyment of it for a number of years, I never wanted to compete. That was never in me. I didn't even know it was something you could do. But obviously in the last sort of 10 or 15 years, it's become so much more popular. And I felt that it was something that I needed to do, A, for myself, something that I should have done when I was younger, and B, it was a way of showing my clients that I'm able to do what I asked them to do. Because I'm a firm believer in never asking someone to do something you wouldn't do yourself. For me to sit there and eat whatever, call it boring if you like, I don't, but foods for 12, 16, 20 weeks, it's like, well, if I can do it, you can do it. Don't sit there and tell me you can't do it, because it can be done.
So how do you learn, qualify and kickstart as a FitPro? This is the FitPro Sessions Podcast with Parallel Coaching.
So, how long did you give yourself for that first show? Did you give yourself a very clear 12 weeks or 16 or 20 weeks?
Yeah, see, this is, as I've learned over the years, this is the problem. Everybody gives themselves a standard 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know where this 12-week diet comes from.
Nope.
Okay, I work on a 12-week transformation. In that 12 weeks, I know exactly what you can lose. You can lose 12 kilos, right? You can lose up to 12 kilos, anywhere from 0.1 to 12.
Yeah.
So you're not going to lose any more because I don't think that's the correct approach. Yes, okay, I could make that 24 kilos. I could make you lose 2 kilos a week. You wouldn't be very happy with me. But so I have a set limit. But when you work in the bodybuilding world and the competitive world, you have to work back from what your body fat percentage is when you decide you're going to compete. So if your body fat percentage is 30% and you weigh 90 kilos and we're looking at you losing 27 kilos, you're not going to do that in 12 weeks.
So really what we're saying here is it's not a guess. There's no hit and hope. It's a very calculated, reversed engineered, you say. So for example, right now I'm at 86 kilos body fat percent. For me personally right now, end of October 2019, I'm at about 15%.
Okay. So for you to be 2 or 3%, you need to lose 12% of your 86 kilos. So that's what, 9 and a bit. Take you down to like 77, 78. You're going to stand on stage at 78, ripped to shreds, right?
Yeah.
So then you know at 0.6, 0.7 a week or whatever, 0.9 a week over 10 weeks. So 0.6, 0.7 over 12 to 14 weeks is going to bring you where you need to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you've got to you want to be ready 2 weeks early. Okay. You should be ready to stand on stage 2 weeks before show day. And then you might want to allow another week or two because there's bound to be a cock up somewhere along the line.
There's going to be a hurdle.
There's going to be 1 week where you lose nothing.
Yeah.
It has to happen. It's inevitable.
Yeah. And
but
that's
if you allow the 2 weeks, you're building in that barrier, that comfort barrier, right? So yeah, you're then looking at 14, 15, 16 weeks to lose 10 or 12%. So when someone needs to lose 30% and think, I'll do that in 12 weeks, never in a million years.
And that's what I love about the kind of a body transformation coach standpoint is it allows you to pick and set a very audacious goal. And on the flip side, it's definitely going to challenge you and the client or you personally, whoever's doing it.
Yes.
But we know it's achievable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And attainable. And that's the beauty of it is you can now sit there and comfortably, you can never guarantee an outcome because like you say, you don't know how quickly someone's going to reduce fat or reduce weight, what barriers are going to show up. However, it's the best calculated guess going.
That's it. That's all you can do. You have to kind of, as I say, you work back. There is, the maths behind it. But what people don't do is they're just like, I'll just diet for 12 weeks. And don't diet for 12 weeks before a show. No, you diet for however long your body needs to diet for. And if your body's a little bit stubborn, you might find the first 2 weeks, I've had it with some females, the first 2 weeks, don't do anything. Because it's like, well, what are you doing? And you'll get somebody else who'll lose 3 kilos in the first week. And you're like, whoa, I need to slow this down. But then the body does that for you the next week. You only lose 1.5 kilos. And then the next week, you're at 0.8. You're like, well, this is where I need to be. And the third week will always show you.
I've read the Lane Norton's contest prep guide. Have you read that or heard of it?
Yeah. Lane Norton's one of my mentors, a great friend of mine. So
I loved reading all of it, in fact. And one thing that came out was the calorie deficit or what you should be looking at losing each week. And from an adherence perspective or a realistic end outcome perspective was looking at, no more than really 0.6, 0.7, 0.8 of a kilo per week. And those people that set a really kind of a lowest weight loss per week actually ended up with the best outcome versus the person that's going after, say, 1.2, 1.4, 1.8 kg a week. the deficit's so great and the workload's so great, the likelihood of falling off of that goes up.
Yeah, you got the chance of, when you start going above the realms of a kilo a week, say, and when you look at a kilo, 7,000 calories, you've got to lose, that's 1,000 calories a day, okay? You're on the edge of it being the total amount that you can use, because when you look at that kind of 2/3, 1/3 ratio between food and exercise, so if we're talking about losing 600 or 700 calories through food and 300 or 400 calories through exercise, you know, you're not going to go any more than 1,000 calories, because 600 calories is a lot. Right?
Yeah.
You could switch that round. You could go, right, let's go 300-400 from food, and then let's burn 350 on an hour's worth of cardio. Let's burn 350 on an hour's worth of weights. Let's hope we get some EPOC on the back of that, which will give us that extra little boost. We might burn a little bit more, but you're still looking at 1,000 calories. And 1,000 calories really is the maximum you can go to, in my eyes, and in my experience of however many people over however many years now. Because you go beyond that, as you say, you either don't stick to it, you're constantly tired, you're always hungry, or that minimal 5 to 10% muscle wastage loss that you are going to get, you're inherently going to get, then becomes a little bit more, because
Completely.
you're not feeding it enough.
And ultimately what it comes down to is this whole regime is no longer enjoyable. And
yeah,
we only, as humans, we only do things and adhere to things that we find enjoyable.
That's right. And so, as I say, I started off in that kilo realm way back then, years ago, 10, 12 years ago. And now that 0.6, that's easy.
Do you find if somebody wanted to then lose weight, not just from, say, getting on stage, I think for relevance for the listeners, is for almost any client that wants to lose weight, it's the same principle. But if somebody wanted to lose weight, from your experience, is it, let's say we wanted to lose 1,000 calories a day, is it best to say be biased towards making that from a food deficit or a exercise output? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what? I think that's a really good question, because me personally, I would rather eat the food, okay, and then work it off.
Snap.
And the reason being is maintaining that fullness does something to you. Having that food in you does something to you that taking it out doesn't do. So,
and my perspective of that, sorry to jump back in, would be if I'm burning, say, 700 calories and I'm biased towards the burning of calories versus losing that from food, I'm not actually replenishing the body enough necessarily to recoup and repair that of the damage I've done from an excessive calorie burn.
Yes, absolutely. It's exactly that. You know, the essence of dieting is to eat as much food as you possibly can while still losing weight.
Amazing.
So if you can diet on 300 calories of food and 700 calories of exercise, that's much better than you dieting on 700 calories of food and 300 calories of exercise because you were too lazy to get up and do the extra bit. Right? Because keeping that food in keeps you fuller. Keeping you fuller, nitrogen retention, you know, blood retention. So you've got the fluids are in there, the nutrients are in those fluids. You know, you get the fullness, you get a better workout, you get a better recovery, as you were saying, which is the most important thing. And it's no good sometimes slamming, doing all the exercise, doing 3 hours of cardio a day or whatever, and then slamming a load of food in at the end, thinking that will make it right. It doesn't. And you know, you have to eat the right amount of food for you, as I say, and try and maintain that level and make the deficit from somewhere else. Yes, at some point you are going to have to remove some food, and that will run for 6-8 weeks until your metabolism adapts to that. Then you might have to drop out another 20 grams of carbs, which is another 80 calories, or 25 grams, so that's 100 calories a day. And you'll get another ride for 6 weeks before your metabolism.
But surely the early stages of that dieting regime or that routine, making it as easy as possible for at least the first 6 to 8 weeks, when you do start to change the balance of calorie burn on calories in and start to become stricter again, surely that transition becomes easier because you've built up this habit for 6 or 8 weeks when it was easier.
Yeah, absolutely. I always try and break a prep down into sort of 3 phases, and it doesn't matter if it's 12 weeks or 16 weeks or whatever. Let's say 15 weeks. This particular one is, right? So we've got 3 lots of 5.
Yeah.
So the first 5 weeks, they're going to be easy, right? You've cleaned up your diet. You've taken away all the things you shouldn't really be eating. You're on to these really, unprocessed foods, everything you should be eating anyway, to be fair. A clean-up shouldn't be that bad. Because
Coca-Cola comes out.
Yeah, that's it. So the Coca-Cola's gone. The Duo Bounty Bar that you share with a wife, that's gone. And then you're obviously eating rye vitas and peanut butter, yeah, because that's what everyone eats. No, rice cakes and peanut butter, mate. That's the way forward. And you want to, as I say, those first 5 weeks, you should be losing that 0.6, but that should just be happening. You shouldn't even know you're doing it. You're probably doing 15 minutes cardio at that point. Then the next 5 weeks, the cardio might go up to half an hour, 5 days a week, right? You're still not doing an hour, 7 days. I've never had anyone doing that. If the diet is right and the effort is right, the cardio is the right cardio done at the right time, and there's an importance in that. It's not just let's just do some cardio for an hour. No, let's do the right cardio at the right time of day and utilise the time frame we have. And that's where you get the best results from.
And then the last 5 weeks?
So then the last 5 weeks, yeah, you're going to be doing the maximum amount of cardio, whatever that might happen to be for you, for your physique. It could be 40 minutes, 45. I've had people doing 50. But it's still only going to be 4 or 5 days a week, right? It's not going to be 7. Because if you're doing 7 now and you're on 800 calories and you can't get out of bed and you don't want to go in the gym and nothing's happening, you're not growing, you're not losing fat, your body's not operating correctly. And
when you're in that stress state, regardless,
yeah,
all the physiological systems are in a sympathetic, stressed place.
Yeah,
So
your CNS is through the roof, right? You're sleeping for 6 hours. You get into the last 5 weeks, your sleep is rotten. And I always check with my clients in the last 4 to 6 weeks. It's like every week they're checking, how's your sleeping this week? Oh, yeah, it's been all right. I'm sleeping through. Or I wake up every 2 hours. Right, now we need to change that because it tells me something's going on. You carry on doing that, and you're going to start having hormonal issues. So then we can look at that. So there's a lot of things that come out of the information, the feedback from the client on a weekly basis.
Which could potentially stop them from getting on stage totally. So they could almost sabotage themselves in that final 5 weeks.
Most people do. I've seen coaches do it to people, and the next thing you know, they're on like 800 calories and they've started, what do they call it? They just take all the food out. So it's not like a carb load, but they're taking all the carbohydrates out of their diet about 2 weeks out. And then they stuff them full of carbs 2 days before the show and then wonder why they look flat. And it's like, your body can't absorb that when you haven't had it in there for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And the body needs carbohydrates to produce energy. So how do you think you're going to go to the gym and, in them 4 weeks, you are hanging out of your backside and you have to go in there and make magic happen. And if you haven't got any energy, that ain't going to happen.
It isn't going to happen.
I see these people dragging themselves around the gym 12 weeks out from the show going, oh, yeah, I'm prepping. I'm on like 100 grams of carbs, and 12 weeks out, they're doing an hour of cardio every day, and that's only going to increase, and their food's going to go down. And like you say, CNS through the roof, cortisol through the roof, insulin's coming in left, right, and centre. You're not losing any weight while they're in play, and if you're really unlucky, you'll store everything that you're not eating.
It's a real,
800 calories.
It sounds like a real catch-22, a real fine line and balance between them. And, the success you've had yourself personally, but also I've seen the transformations, and we'll talk about them shortly, of the people you've got on stage, because they've just been, wow, some of them recently have just been absolutely mind-blowing to see the before and afters. What I'm interested in, sorry to jump in, is going back to that first show, outside of everything you've already spoken about, what was the biggest lesson that you learned whether that be physically or emotionally, or something about the plan, the cardio, the resistance element, or the nutritional, the mindset? What would you say is the biggest lesson you took from that first show that you said, I will never forget that, and every client hears this story?
Yeah. Okay. So I've never talked about this
Nice.
because I don't want the person that prepped me for that show to feel bad. He'll probably never hear this anyway, but that's not the point. I had the utmost respect for this guy at the time. He was a bodybuilder, a local bodybuilder, had a little bit of knowledge, and I like to think he had more knowledge than me. So I paid him to PT me, to do legs each week, because I needed someone that would make me throw up and not allow me to stop, even though that isn't normally in my genetic makeup anyway. But so I paid this guy and said, look, so he then gave me a diet. And I ended up doing a ketogenic diet for 6 weeks going into this show, the last 6 weeks of the show, right? And I felt like dog dirt. It was horrible. It was really horrible. That was my first experience of a keto diet, okay? So in all honesty, it wasn't a great one. But the thing that I learned the most from that, or what I took from that, because I didn't understand at the time the issues that I had metabolically, but then having worked with Lane after that, doing a metabolic damage seminar with him, a day seminar with him, I then realised that the coach that I'd employed before had actually given me metabolic damage or metabolic adaptation through this keto style diet for a period of time, which was too much, too long, unnecessary, and everything else. So on the day of the show, I didn't actually look my best, far from it. He accused me at about week 12 of not sticking to the diet, and at that point there was no salt, there was no condiments, there was no sugar in my life, there was nothing, right? I mean, I said no to everything. And so then to be accused of not sticking to the diet, I was really angry. Then I went to the show, looked abysmal, he didn't show up. That annoyed me a little bit more. But then it wasn't until it was explained to me what metabolic damage is that I realised that I'd suffered exactly that. And that was to screw up my metabolism for a length of time after the event, where it was 6-8 months before I could even really start to eat again. And then I realised that this kind of metabolic adaptation was real.
What I love about that is how you've just added lots of like missing pieces to my puzzle that I've seen in your journey as well. Because well, one thing I see certainly on your social media with your clients is how enjoyable you make it, how fun you make it, even though at times there's a calorie restriction and things do come out of the diet, and the last few weeks of prep are tough for anybody. Yet the impression I get is very much the lessons you've learned from what you did wrong are the complete opposite of what you do, the complete opposite to how you operate now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It is that, because my experience of where I am today in terms of the nutritional side of it, I've been eating, let's just say chicken and rice and broccoli since I was 16. So, I've always had an understanding of that food, but being able to put that into perspective with people has made a massive difference. And yes, I've got girls that get to that point, the hormonal changes surrounding the time of the month. I might give them something, that just cheers them up for 5 minutes. It just makes them feel better. It might be an increase in fats. It could be an increase in carbohydrates. It's not necessarily going to be junk, because I don't agree with that. But they are going to have an influx of food for a couple of days, or a refeed meal. And notice I say refeed, not cheat, meal during that prep. And, we create the space for that to be able to happen. And then when they need it, they get it. And if that changes, their emotional or their mental state, then that's fantastic. Because what I don't want is somebody going off, and, you can see that within people.
If the 6 inches between the left ear and right ear is in the game, the body is going to follow, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
So one of the you've mentioned a couple of times, and I've mentioned as well, Lane Norton, who I've done some bits with as well, and I find it extremely fascinating. What for me personally, I've never got on stage, I've never done any kind of, I suppose, formal bodybuilding. I've not worked with clients from that, but I do, I suppose, follow the very, very similar structure that you follow for my everyday clients.
Yes.
And I've loved, applying the, I suppose, elements of the contest prep from Lane Norton to my clients. What else have you done? You qualified as a PT master diploma back with me in 2011. What have you done since? You've done the metabolic damage course with Lane Norton, you've already mentioned.
Yep.
What else have you done to further understand this phenomenally complex world of nutrition and training?
Okay, so the first, I think Lane was first up, to be fair. But anyway, I worked with Physique Elite, which were part of Body Power, and that came about through Neale Hill, one of the world's renowned trainers, and Chris Geffin.
Who is explain a little bit more about? I know who Neale Hill and Chris. They're from Wales, aren't they? South Wales.
Yes.
I know quite a bit about them. For the purposes of the listeners, who are they and who have they trained?
Okay, so Chris Geffin was part of bodybuilding.com a while back. He was originally started out as a journalist, I believe, and then he was a natural bodybuilder. He's now gone on to produce his own supplements, Cage Muscle, and he's got his own gym group in India with another friend of mine, Jag Chima, who's his manager. So they've opened 3 or 4 gyms now, called the Geffin Gyms franchise. So that's where kind of Chris comes from, and he's the guy that developed the DTP training principle, which is a dramatic transformation principle, which is all about massively high reps and drop sets and all sorts of things. It's nasty and works very well.
And we did one of those sessions, if you remember, back in the gym at Wellingborough. What gym did we go to?
We went to Aaron Lambo's gym.
Aaron Lambo, completely.
Rushton, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a big introduction to DTP training for me from you through Chris Geffin, and it was probably the toughest leg session I've ever done.
It has you in bits, but and I just, those kind of things. I've got a leg workout of his that you can literally only do every 2 months. You're not allowed to do it. There are his rules. You're not allowed to do it any more than that. And it's called the quad radical workout, and it is radical. And it will have you on your knees, and it will have you crying for your mum. And you don't want to do it for another 2 months because you're too scared to know what it would feel like if you did it next week.
To go again. So you've worked. So you've worked with Chris under Chris and Neale Hill. Who's Neale Hill?
So Neale Hill, Flex Lewis's trainer. Worked with some other really big names over the years. People like Lee Priest, William Bonac recently, Big Ramy recently. The Neale Hill, he's the founder of the Y3T training principle, which is about, different rep ranges, so different weights on a 3-week turnaround. And it's a very successful principle. It's one that I teach my own clients. And having met him and listened to him in a seminar, I decided that was what I wanted to do. So me really getting into the fitness industry was partly because of him, because I went to him afterwards and said, I totally believe in what you're trying to sell here. How do I get on board and being a part of that? And he said, you need to be a personal trainer. You need to have been working for 2 or 3 years. You need to have done this. You need to have done that. I went, okay. And I walked away from there and I picked up the phone and I booked my level 2. And, kind of the rest is history. But yeah, I did that, the level 2, level 3. Then I did a Y3T Academy, which was a 6-month online academy as a Y3T master trainer. And also the Body Transformation Academy, which was with Lazo Freeman in London. And that was an online 6-month academy. And again, that was through with Rehan Jalali and people like that. They're all interconnected. That's pretty much what I've done education-wise. Rehan with the sports nutrition, advanced sports supplementation, the amount of the active ingredient of supplements that you need to take to be effective, irrespective of what's actually on the side of the box. We find a lot of the supplements out there are underdosed in terms of what your body physically needs. So, it was Lane, metabolic damage, Rehan, all about supplements and nutrition, and he is a nutrition god. He worked with Ben Affleck to get him ready for Batman. He's got a six-pack diet plan. He's got radio shows, TV shows. Just did a film with Alex Ardenti called Sups, which is all about the supplement industry.
What I love about this as a journey is obviously you started off with me in the Marble Arch venue we had.
Yes, Bryanston Street.
For level 2 and level 3 and some of the extra CPD courses. You came down to our Swindon venue to do kettlebells as well. That I knew was just really the start. You had this phenomenal underpinning knowledge yourself. But what I love about your journey is you recognize that actually the more you learn, the more you can help and the more you can earn.
Yes.
And you've really niched down, however cheesy that is you've allowed yourself to be fully not just qualified but confident in your knowledge, to work with both male and female of different ages to have full body transformations. And you've gone and seeked out the best in the industry, from those over in India, those over in the US, those in this country. You've worked online to make that happen as well, to truly top your knowledge up so that you can deliver a product or a service that truly does get results.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you say, I've worked online with people, triathletes, as you know, in Andorra, Northampton, and various other people around the world, Lincoln, all on different things. And my client base is 18-year-olds to 65-year-olds. I mean, I don't care how old you are. I don't care how underweight or overweight you are. You come to me and tell me what you need, and we make that happen. And there's a price attached to that.
So somebody that say wanting to get into fitness in the first place, let's say they are on the verge of a career change or thinking about getting into fitness, or maybe they're already doing their fitness qualifications. What advice would you give someone that wants to get fully into a full-time fitness career? If there's one or two bits of advice, what would you say from your experience, what to do?
I think the best piece of advice I could give anybody, if they came to me and they were searching for somebody to work with, I would always tell them and say, you could go with some of these bigger companies and all that. You're just a number. They take your money. You need somebody that is as conscientious as you are, because for my job to work, I expect 100% from my clients. They expect 100% from me. They want me 24/7. They want to text me at 3 o'clock in the morning to ask me, is it okay they've just woken up? Is it okay if I eat a packet of biscuits or not? Right? And I have to be available 24/7 as much as I can be, while still having a life, of course, and answer those questions. Right? So I think go with somebody, as a learning provider who offers you the same as what you expect to give yourself.
Amazing.
Be the client you want to be. Okay, it's always the way, isn't it? So, like you say with yourself, parallel coaching, taught me things, and I put people to them. Some of my clients have gone on and done courses. I've got other people. One did one recently with Ben Coomer at Body Type Nutrition. She's now going to go on and do another course with that, and we may work together in the future. And she's been a client of mine for nearly 6 years, and that's every week for 6 years. She's come to see me. Just had a baby, changed a job and all that. So she's now looking to do something within the nutrition side of the fitness industry based on what she's learned from me, which is great. Always look for the right person. Don't just look at the provider that everyone uses. Look at somebody that's going to look after you, that cares about you as a person, and that you're not just a number.
So I think many people believe that, changing career can be challenging. It's overwhelming. And it's almost like too much to handle. Why do you think people believe that, say, starting out in fitness or changing career into fitness, as an example, or any career for that matter, why do you think people find it overwhelming?
Yeah, I think, as you say, it's going into any career. It's not that fitness itself is more overwhelming than becoming a builder or a carpenter, but that whole change, it brings on the fear, doesn't it? And as you know, the fears that we have instilled are instilled by us. You're not born with fear. You get fear over time. So, people are scared to make that initial jump. They're worried about the money coming in, or, and it is a concern. Certainly when you go and work for somebody where you're paying £300, £400 a month rent now to a Bannatynes or someone, and you haven't got clients.
Yeah.
So there's an immediate fear of failure before you've even started.
But fear of failure and feeling nervous, feeling anxious, they're emotions
Yes.
as simple as being happy, joyful and excited.
Yes. Yeah, they're internal emotions set by you.
And they can come and go as quickly as a heartbeat. Yet so many people from what I experience daily and talking to our parallel learners and those that we support that are with other training providers, they're crippled by this overwhelm, this fear that stops them from moving forward altogether. What advice would you give somebody to break free of that overwhelm, that fear?
Okay, so what I always say to my clients, because we all have fears surrounding something, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be spiders, it could be Rivetas, and it could be learning to become a FitPro. Okay, your fear is your fear. And I always say, imagine yourself standing at the bottom of a mountain and looking up at the top. Okay, now you stand there and you look up and you think, that's going to take me like days to get up. Okay? But the longer you stand down there thinking about it, less likely that's actually going to happen. And the thing is, if you just put one foot in front of the other and trust in yourself, okay, have the confidence in your own ability to be able to walk, put left in front of right, in front of left, in front of right, and the next thing you know, you're up there. You're at the top, looking down, going, well, that was easy.
So how do you learn, qualify and kickstart as a FitPro? This is the FitPro Sessions Podcast with Parallel Coaching.
So belief and confidence.
Absolutely.
Self-belief and self-confidence.
Yeah, don't let that fear overtake. Don't let it override you. Be in control of that fear.
Leading on to that, and I think some of the fears that I hear about daily, certainly with, I get to speak to literally hundreds of trainee FitPros every week, from those with Parallel and those that are with other providers, and they talk about this this report that after 18 months, so many people are no longer in fitness. And from my research,
sadly true.
80% of those that start out in coaching or fitness or within the coaching realm, so that could be not just say within PT, but it could be within sports therapy, it could be in any other therapy, but within 18 months, 80% are out of the industry. Why do you think people are falling victim to the industry and giving up?
Okay, I don't think it's the industry itself in general terms. I think it's usually the individual. And I've met FitPros that have been absolutely awesome, but got no clients. And then I've met people who are absolutely shocking as a FitPro, but constantly busy.
Yeah.
So it's not, and I've said to some people, it's a real shame because you're one of those people that just won't be working in 2 or 3 years' time, but you make a great PT. And it is hard to find that balance, but it's about being self-employed. It's about having that ability again and the confidence in yourself as an individual and what you're trying to teach, and then being able to sell that. And it is a hard industry because it's a continual rotation of clients. They come in, like say, for argument's sake, like my world with the 12-week transformations. They come in, do 12 weeks, they're gone.
Completely. So really what we're saying is you've done all of the courses, all of the qualifications, got all of that knowledge to get a particular result. And I believe what fitness professionals love doing most is actually just working with the client. But the hardest thing is, how do I get the client in the first place? How do I get a referral out of that client? But also, once that client leaves, how do I go and get another client and another client?
That's right. That's right. It's continual.
The underpinning thing here is we, and I was guilty of this for many years when I first started out, is that I loved the process of actually working with the client. What I didn't particularly enjoy or appreciate or value was the underpinning self-employed business aspect of our industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's hard. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, self-employed is self-employed, and people come to me and they go, yeah, but I didn't get paid last week and I didn't earn any money, but I've got £400 to pay my rent. And yeah, absolutely. And that's when you realise that you do have to continually go out and get new clients. There isn't many industries like that. Normally they just come to you. If you're a hairdresser, every 6 weeks someone's going to come get their hair cut because it's grown. That's that. As long as you're good at cutting their hair and they like who you are, they'll keep coming back. But with fitness, it's different. People, they come to you, they want to get fit for a holiday. They want to get fit for a wedding. I've had people, one of my clients, we dieted her once for a holiday. We dieted her for a wedding. I worked with her right up until literally the day before a baby was born. And so people come to me for different things. But when that job is done,
it's done.
They're normally gone.
Yeah.
So then it's like, right, then now I need another one. And you can't have an overlap with a gap. Right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're not earning any money.
Yeah.
So you're like, right, this one's going to finish in 3 weeks. Let's get another one ready. Right? Sometimes I put people off and start them 2 weeks later because they're filling the gap. But I don't want to be inundated with work for 3 weeks. What I really want is that person to start in a couple of weeks' time if I can make that happen. And
that comes down to having, again, the belief and confidence that that client is A, going to wait for you because and not going to go to another trainer, but then you've positioned yourself not as a personal trainer like everybody else for masses. You've positioned yourself as a body transformation coach. So there's a key couple of lessons in there, isn't there?
Yeah, because people come and find me. Yeah. They want me. It's what I do. They can go in any gym that they like and find the wall of shame of all the pictures, the mug shots, and then go and pick a PT in any gym they like.
Yeah.
Is that person going to be able to do for them what they need to be done? They're not really sure.
Yeah.
But they know, they can see my results. They've spoken to people I've worked with. They know who I am, what I am, how I do it, what it costs. And so if they come to me, I don't really have to worry too much. They're going to go somewhere else.
Yeah. So let's take some of the people you've worked with then. If it's okay with you, you don't necessarily have to name names, but who would you say has been your number one body transformation whereby they, not necessarily got on stage, maybe they have, but who are you most proud of? And tell us a little bit about that journey.
Okay, so I've probably got a couple. I think they're on par for different reasons, and neither of them have ever competed. So yes, obviously a transformation from somebody who's in shape to being shredded is still a transformation in itself, and it always excites me because every transformation does. But the people that I have the utmost respect for are those that have come to me that were 20, 30, 40, 50 kilos overweight and then lost 10 kilos of that. I've got one girl that's still working with me now. She's lost 30 kilos with me. She was 108. She's now 80. I think she was 84 and a half or something the other week. Last week before. She needs to be 65. She knows that. But we are over halfway there. Okay, yes, we've been working for some time. Her weight has gone down and gone back up 3 kilos, come down 6 kilos, gone back up 3 kilos. I've experienced everything with her. But within that experience for her, I'm always learning.
So her quality of life must be radically different.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. And to tie these two together, there was another girl that did 3 transformations back to back. Right, there was a little bit of time in between, difference between, say, the first and second one might have been like 6 weeks apart. Then I think it was about 6 months between 2 and 3. But she came and lost 10 kilos the first time, 12 kilos the next time, and 10 kilos the next time, or whatever. Each time she smashed it out of the park.
So right? 30 odd kilos. Wow.
Yeah, and at $2,000 a pop. So she spent £6,000 on me over 2 years or whatever, because she worked with me just on a PT level as well before and after that. We had a reverse diet and all kind of things coming out of the back of the transformation.
What I really love about that is it goes against the grain. I'm a firm believer, one-to-one PT isn't dead in our industry, far from it. But what I do believe doesn't necessarily get results is this kind of pay per hour versus pay per result.
It's an open-ended goal, isn't it? And
yes.
You know as well as I do, if I give you an opportunity to move the goalposts, you will, because that's what we do as human beings, right?
And all we need at the end of the month is for there be too much month and not enough paycheck, and suddenly a session has gone in week 4 of the month because the client had an MOT on their car come in, and
I've had that, and it's usually about now. Actually, everyone drops out at Christmas, and it will happen at the end of November because they don't have the money saved over to buy their Christmas presents, and they're not going to get paid till after Christmas, so they use their November paycheck. So I have 10 people drop out in December, and it happens every year. And then come January, February, you get a whole load of new people that are
versus they were always able to afford it in the grand scheme of things because
absolutely they just didn't budget properly.
They just didn't budget.
Simple as that.
But for you to package something up at £2,000 or plus per transformation, but then you deliver a very specific result.
It's a package. You're buying a package. You're buying a nutrition plan, a training program. You're buying that hour of FaceTime. You're buying that 24/7
proximity with Darren Stock.
Telephone backup. You're guaranteed to lose X, Y, Z. Otherwise, you get your money back.
Yeah.
You know, it's a whole different thing. I'm saying we can do this in that time frame. Not, well, if you just come and pay me £30 a week or whatever, we'll see where you are in 6 months' time.
And also, you need a lot of weekly clients pay per hour to make okay money. Versus you only need a couple of clients per month at £2,000 a pop before you are in a very different financial situation, which could again explain why you've been in the industry coming up to your 10th year.
Yes, it is that long.
Yeah, a decade. Getting old, Grandpa Porsche.
I know.
So what about
now doing my level 4? Look, still learning. 10 years on, still learning.
Yeah, so for those of you, we're not mentioned, Darren's actually enrolled on a couple of our parallel courses, on the specialist courses around level 4, to kind of just add another string to your bow, aren't you, as well? But we'll talk about that shortly. Talk about, have you got one or two case studies where you have got somebody on stage and you've had a phenomenal result and you're really proud of what they achieved or their placing?
Yeah, absolutely. Right, okay, so a couple really. One of the first girls that ever came to me that wanted to compete on stage had never competed before. I'd worked with her as a client for a number of years, and I knew her physical capabilities, and I rated her physically to be able to do something. So we started to do a little bit of a diet. We thought about, contemplated the idea of her stepping on stage, and I then arranged for her posing classes with a friend of mine over in Essex. And we went over there one Sunday, went to the country club, in the little studio, done some posing classes. And this person, Joanna, was doing the Fit Factor at Body Power. She was organising, and she was one of the judges. And she said to me, you're in really good shape. You do really well, in this Fit Factor. So this girl was like, we were driving home, and she said, should I do it? And I said, if you want to do it, do it. We've got the time, we can get you ready. It's not a problem. So we did. We carried on doing what we were doing, tightened up the diet, we made everything come together. And she walked up there and she won it.
Nice.
And I cried. This is a girl that never competed in her life, had no desire to stand on stage in a Fit Factor competition, which isn't quite bodybuilding. It's all about how you dance around, your look and everything. So there was a few things to look at. There was photographs.
There's still a few thousand people watching, though.
Oh, mate, it was the whole of Body Power. Whole of Body Power, 70,000 people. And she just strolls up there and just wins it, walks away, and ends up with like a couple £100 worth of my protein goodies. And it left me in tears on the side of the stage. That was phenomenal. Then I had a brother and sister come to me, and the sister came to me first. And they both got phenomenal genetics. And she never competed before. She was anorexic when I first met her. She weighed in about 46 kilos, I think it was. And she's 22, 23 years old. 5'5", 5'6". So she was tiny. So we worked on, size. We got her up to and had her on stage, dieted at 50 kilos, 49.6 or something, I think it was. It's very shade under 50 kilos. Shredded, bigger than what she was when she came to me 6 months beforehand, at 46 kilos when she looked ill. and she got a 3rd place in the local show, the PCA at Norwich.
Wow.
And then that gave her an invite to the British finals in the October.
Wow.
So we turned up to the British finals. She beat the girl in the British, came 5th in the British finals. She beat the girl that had come 2nd at Norwich, who then came 6th at the final. So she outclassed her. We had the pictures of Norwich and we had the pictures of Birmingham, the final. And she was bigger, fuller. She looked better on the 2nd show. She did the 1st show. This was like 6 months apart. So not only had we put 6 kilos on her frame and made her look awesome, but then we'd also managed to make her look bigger, but still come in on stage exactly the same weight in the November or October. And then she got a world invite from the British invite. And this is a girl who'd never competed before. So it was knowing what I know as a person, as a lover of bodybuilding, seeing the physique, seeing I could do that with that. I could, if we just change that, you're going to look all right. And she did.
So taking somebody from not really thought about competing and having various concerns with her own body in terms of food, and you mentioned anorexia in terms of like that, the emotions behind that. This isn't the podcast to explore that as a topic, but then to work with her to change her views of food, or work with her on her values and beliefs around food and body image, to go on and do a local show, then to place and go to nationals, and then get an invite to the worlds is, again, that
all in your first year.
All in your first
all
year.
in your first year.
Wow.
3 shows in your first year, and managing something that I've worked 10 years, to get.
So if you took one thing from your clients' journeys, what would you say is the secret sauce for you as the coach to assist in the client's journey? What's the secret sauce? I'd imagine there's lots of things, but if you just took 1 or 2 things max right now that's made this happen, but you were an integral part of their journey, what is that secret sauce?
I just, do you know what? I think, you can have the best diet in the world, you can have the best training program in the world. None of them matter if you don't have the mentality. You have to be happy. You have to have the happiness. While you're stressed, under stress, you're not going to lose any weight. It's as simple as that. So I've always tried to keep my clients grounded. I know how important that is for me. My wife won't tell me things that will upset me in the last 4 weeks of me going on stage, because I don't need the stress in that time frame. That's in the time frame when you're eating the least amount of food possible and doing the most amount of work possible within that prep period. So it's the toughest part, that last trimester, shall we say, the last third. And I don't want to hear that someone I don't know has died, or it's so irrelevant. And if it's going to stress me, she won't tell me. So
irrespective of the nutritional game, irrespective of the game in the gym, what it comes down to is managing the top 3 inches.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the mindset, 100% the mindset, because if they're not in the game mentally, they're not going to do the diet, they're not going to go in the gym and train. If they're not eating, they're not going to want to train because they've got the energy. You know what I mean? And you've got to remember, I'm already making things difficult for them anyway at that point.
So stress is
nutritionally.
Managing stress is the key here.
And it is the one thing that just kill everything.
Yeah.
The moment that cortisol comes in, that's it. Fat loss stops, and everything. You stop sleeping, your hormones go out of balance. It's horrible.
It's a runaway train from there.
Yeah.
From here, I want to move on. I got a couple of learner questions. So I put an email out to our parallel community. And you've seen some of these questions already, and I just want to address them. So Darren asks, he says, I've just finished a book called Bigger, Leaner, Stronger. I'm not sure if you've read that at all. I haven't personally. I had a quick look on the old Google for it. The author claims that to build muscle, the sweet spot of reps is 4 to 6 reps. Darren's just finished his PT course with us, and the one thing we talk about is hypertrophy is in a rep range of 8 to 12 rep max. So Darren's question is, my question is, from reading the book, as long as you progress in weight or overload, can you build muscle at any rep range, or is it 8 to 12 specifically proven to be the best?
No, you can build muscle in any rep range as long as those 4 or 5 things are in order. One of them being your food, the progressive overload, the sleep. You have to have, it doesn't matter. Building muscle is easy to a degree. It's not as hard as people think, but it's not easy because if you're not eating enough, and that goes with, eating the right amount of food at the same time that your weights are going up to allow you the energy to continue putting the weights up so that you can continually get stronger. You have to grow the muscle fibers to gain the strength that allows you to pick the next weight up. So any rep range will work. And again, going back to say Chris Getz and Neale Hill, you're looking at Neale using 3 different rep ranges over 3 weeks, Chris using only high reps. And if you look at Chris, he's built an amazing physique, natural physique, which has won bodybuilding shows.
I think what it comes down to really is other variables outside of just the rep range, because obviously if you're going to do 4 reps at, let's say, 2 seconds up, 2 seconds down, that's 4 seconds per rep. Across 4 reps, that's 16 seconds per set. It's probably going to be a bit quicker than that, based on 4 reps is probably going to be, or would be, very heavy to achieve overload at 4 RM. So the time under tension for 1 rep is probably going to be quicker than 2 up, 2 down. So when you take say a 12 rep max, or something you talk about through the DTP program where you're doing say 30, 40 reps, the time under tension or the exposure to that particular load is going to be far greater compared to say 4 reps. So you've got more exposure to the eccentric phase. You've got more exposure to tearing the muscle.
It's about creating the damage, the internal damage. You have to create that damage. And as you say, it's, if you do 6 reps and 2 seconds up, 2 seconds down, you're talking about 24 seconds. If you do Chris's DTP transformation, you're talking about doing 50 reps. Even if it took 1 second, it's 50 seconds. So your time under tension has doubled. And the volume has increased, which is another factor. So time under tension being one factor, workload or work volume being another factor. Yes, you're going to use less weight.
And total poundage, it's one variable I like to have worked with clients.
Over the whole,
is total poundage across the entire set, but also the entire session. So if I lift, let's just say it's 100 kgs on the bar on a deadlift, and I do it 4 times, I've lifted 400 kgs. However, if I'm not going to do the maths on the podcast.
I'll do it for you.
Oh yeah, if I obviously I've got to reduce the weight on the bar to do higher reps, but come the end of the session, if
you reduced it to 50, but then did 50 reps with it, you're doing 2,500 instead of 400.
And as a variable goes, certainly the research I've read and the results I've seen from people is that's a key variable, just outside of just saying, well, how many reps am I going to do? More so, how much weight am I going to lift total?
I do think that this is one thing I will say, I don't think there's a variation on can you build muscle or not with a rep range, because that's a given, you can at any rep range. The only difference being is the quality or the shape or the size or the look of that muscle. Now, when we look at lifting a heavy weight, yes, you gain mass. Now, I've always lifted high reps because I swum 3 miles a week for 5 years. So my body is in condition to I have to do a little bit more. If I do 8, 10 reps, doesn't matter how heavy the weight is. Yes, okay, it's heavy, but it doesn't really tax my body. If I do 100 reps with half the weight, I'm in pieces because I'm using a different energy system. My body's used to being in that energy system. But, mass, yes, heavyweight. If you want the definition, the detail, then
I suppose it's coming down to exposure as well. If I lift 4 reps and I do 4 or 5 exercises in that session, the recovery time's gone up to a degree potentially before I can come back in and work that muscle again, versus doing say 15 RM. So I can now increase my frequency from a week. And a good friend of mine, he often gets asked, how did you get your back to be so wide and so deep? And he's got on stage a number of times, and very simply, he says every morning he does 3 sets of 12 pull-ups, full body weight pull-ups. And he said, it might not seem like much. However, come the end of a year, the amount of reps he's done and the amount of poundage he's lifting, and I think he weighs in at about 110 pounds. It works out to be the equivalent of like a Boeing A380 or something like that. And he said, very simply, these small, simple steps every day have incurred this huge amount of poundage come the end of a year, versus somebody that did back once a week at 4 RM, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did as a kid when I was 13, 14. I was always being told off by my parents. I was always hanging off the door frame doing pull-ups, and that's what gave me a set of arms at 14 years old. And the fact I did 300 sit-ups every day is what gave me abs at 14. It wasn't the fact that I didn't eat chips and beans and sausages. It was the fact that I was doing these things every day.
Not Rivitas.
No, rice cakes weren't better. So,
I've just seen how many times we could get the word Rivita into today's podcast. We're on 3 or 4 now. It's quite good. So let's jump on to Gemma's question. I've got one more learner question and then 2 final questions before we wrap up. And Gemma asked, what's been your biggest challenge? We talked back and forth, myself and Gemma, on email, and she was quite interested in the fact that you're coming up to your 9th, 10th year in the fitness industry. And she wants to know, what's your biggest challenge you've come across working in the fitness industry?
Working with idiots.
I didn't explain. Tell me more about this working with idiots.
No. What's been the biggest challenge? I mean, always changing gyms is a new challenge, isn't it? And I've worked in all the gyms across the city, to be fair. I haven't worked in all the little ones, but I've worked in all the bodybuilding gyms around here. But yeah, I mean, a change of scenery, and we're going back to, starting out as a FitPro. That fear is always a fear, isn't it? So, you start somewhere new, you've got to get a whole new bunch of clients. For the first 6 months, no one's going to talk to you because they don't know who you are. But then after a while, and, depending on who you are and me being me, people start talking to me because they don't have a choice. But, I think a change of scenery has been a challenge. And outside of that, every single client I have is their own individual challenge.
Nice.
And I love that. I love that because they all bring their own thing. They all need something different from me. As we know, and I say it time and time again, there is no cookie-cutter deal here. There is no one size fits all. Everybody is an individual.
What I've loved about your whole journey, Darren, is if I think back to when we met in Marble Arch, you're talking today, 9 years on, almost 10 years on, with the same level of passion and ambition as you were then. And I see a number of fit pros that have been in the industry just a few months or just a few years start to lose their passion, their ambition, and their why. And I think that becomes their biggest challenge versus, why I think you've been incredibly successful is you've not let that ambition and passion die or go away. You're acting as if you're almost brand new to the industry still and treating it with that level of respect.
Yeah, but I think, every day is a new day, isn't it? I talk to people on a daily basis. I talk to a lot of women, obviously, my wife owning a hairdressing salon. I get a lot of women in there, and they ask me questions all the time about diet, and I'm always happy to answer those questions. It's like, I can't talk to you unless you pay me. We have these conversations. I help numerous people. And it is because every single day I have that passion, that desire to change another person. And if I can do that, whether it's been for free or whether I've been paid for it, I don't really care. As long as I'm changing the world one body at a time.
Amazing. And, I think, we've spoken, I don't know how many, ridiculous, but we could talk forever. But I have two final questions for you, mate. Based on life today, all your experiences from day dot in the swimming pool, doing my long distances, boxing, bodybuilding, getting on stage, taking, clients to radical transformations alongside getting them on stage and being invited to the world championships and whatnot. What 3 things or tips or advice would you give somebody wanting to start out in fitness or coaching?
Find yourself a reputable learning company. So learn from the best. The only way to be the best is to learn from the best. Find somebody that cares as much about your fitness journey as you do.
Yeah. So number one, somebody that cares just as much as you, how you want to be treated, and go from there. Number two,
be the client you want to be.
Be the client. What do you mean by that? Tell us a little bit more.
Always behave as the person that you want to attract. So
Lovely.
Be the client you want to be. So if you want to attract people that don't turn up, who go out on the alcohol at the weekend and all the party things or whatever they do, they don't show up for their sessions. If you want to be that person, then make sure that you're doing that as well. If you want people to take you seriously and you want 100% of their attention, you have to give them 100% of your attention.
So as cheesy as it sounds, practice what you preach.
Absolutely. Yeah, cool. It is exactly the same.
And then number 3?
Spend your money wisely.
What do you mean by that?
With coaching or being a coach or employing a coach, spend your money wisely. Always look at the qualifications of either the people that are teaching you as a learner, or whether it's, you paying a personal trainer. Make sure the person that you are paying knows what you want to learn. Yeah.
Something that myself and Haley have done, as you know, we've had a number of coaches ourselves. We've always looked and said, has the coach achieved what it is that I'm after?
Yes.
A recent example is we have very successfully changed the way we do a lot of our emails, and we're getting a phenomenal response. So we went to the coach in the industry, of what we know, to be the number one person in email marketing, and got coached personally and mentored by him, which was Paul Moore, and it was just groundbreaking. And there was plenty of other people we could have chosen, but by going to somebody who's already had the result that we wanted,
that's right,
was a great place.
Then it's not about the cost, is it? Because it's about value, and as Rehan always says, there's a cost, there's a price to pay for everything.
And cost and value are two different conversations.
Absolutely. Go to the person. Doesn't matter what it costs. Don't go, I can't afford that. It's not because they're expensive. It's because you don't earn enough.
Yeah.
If that's what they charge and that's what you want, go and pay them. Get what you need. Pay it once.
So I have one final question for you, Darren, before we log off today. And first off, I want to acknowledge your time, not just today, but also your time, your energy, your effort, your approach to training, right from day dot when, if you remember, we were standing under cover, escaping the rain outside the Marble Arch venue back in 2010, and the endless amounts of coffees that we'd pick each other's brains over in Marble Arch Park. And so I just want to kind of acknowledge your thirst for learning and your approach to the industry today. And with all that said, what's your definition of an outstanding coach?
I think an outstanding coach has to be somebody that has at least, if not more, passion about what you're trying to achieve than you do alone.
Amazing.
And that is all there is to it. It really is that. As you say, yes, okay, I know that I have an inbuilt passion. There are people out there that have no passion for this industry. They just fancy to change a job. And whilst that's okay, they are the people that fall by the wayside. So always look for somebody who has got at least the same amount of passion for that particular thing, whether it be triathlons, whether it be bodybuilding, whatever, as you do.
Amazing. Well, Darren, that brings us to the end of today's FitPro session. It's been amazing having you on. I just want to say thank you one more time. Where can all the listeners go to find out more about you?
So please, Instagram, Darren Porsche, Facebook, Darren Porsche. Facebook page, Team Muscle Makers. They're the best places to get hold of me.
Fantastic. So what I'll do is I'll put all of that in the show notes and links out so you can find out more about you.
They'll be down below.
Or up here or over here, wherever. And outside of that, Darren, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we look forward to having you on again soon.
Thank you very much. My pleasure to be here.
Cool. Take care, boss. Hi, I'm Neale Bergman.
And I'm Hayley Bergman. Over the last 10 years, we've helped thousands of fitness professionals to get qualified, learn with simplicity, and coach clients with confidence.
We're the first to say that learning and being a fit pro doesn't have to be hard work, and that with the right structure, support, and resources, you can become a confident and knowledgeable fitness professional that is dedicated to more.
So how do you learn, qualify, and kickstart as a fit pro? This is the FitPro Sessions Podcast with Parallel Coaching.